We left off Friday in Psalm 4, verse 6, about who's going to help us. There be many that say, who will show us any good? So the backstory very quickly is that David is running from Absalom, his son, who has taken over the throne. Many people have betrayed David and joined Absalom. It's a dark time late in David's life. You say, well, why do we know that? I actually had a good friend ask me this past week, where do you see that in this psalm? What are we missing? Well, basically, friend, this is when you look at David's life, and we know that David is the author of this psalm, and you look at the details that he describes in Psalm 3 and Psalm 4, and then you step back and you ask yourself, when in his life were circumstances like this unfolding? Now, it's a bit of conjecture, but it's educated guesswork. These psalms best fit the Absalom season of David's life for a variety of reasons that I won't go into. And so you end up with a consensus from historians and biblical scholars over really centuries that if we had to really guess, an educated and informed guess of what was going on in David's life when he wrote this psalm, you'd land at the story of Absalom. Now, I wouldn't get too caught up in that, and I'll tell you why. There's always an alternate theory, and it doesn't really matter to the essence of the psalm. What is substantive and beyond question is that David was facing circumstances similar to what he was dealing with when Absalom rose up against him, okay? So whether it was another time in his life or the Absalom episode, we're not 100% sure, but we're pretty sure, okay? Now, with that in mind, people around David are saying, who is there to help us? Who's gonna be good to us? Who can help us through this? And we left off there on Friday. I want to spend a few minutes meditating together with you on the next phrase in verse 6. David is rehearsing to God. God, doesn't look like we have any help. So, Lord, lift thou up the light of thy countenance upon us. Now, this is a beautiful picture, and it probably traces back to when God told Moses to teach Aaron how to bless the people. I think it's early in the book of Numbers. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. What is the image here? Okay, well, God is the source of light, and so being in the light of God's presence or in the light of his countenance would be the sense that I'm the recipient of his favor, his presence, his delight, and his truth, that he is not only smiling on me and delighting in me, but he's enlightening me. He's lightening my load. He's lightening my path. He's showing me the way. He's with me. He's for me. So the sense that, okay, the opposite would be living in darkness or shadow, that sense of being lost or removed somehow from God's favor or God's delight. Maybe that the sense like he has earlier is either this chapter or 44 where I think it was 44 where he talked about God sleeping. When will you awake? When will you help me? Okay. So this is experientially, I think, the most energizing, the most peacemaking, the most joy-producing experience in the Christian life. God, and this is what's beautiful about this phrase. If the light of God's countenance and God's favor is on me, upon me, it chases away whatever darkness I'm experiencing in my circumstantial world. Now, why can I say that with such authority and such delight and such joy? Because I've experienced it, okay? Now, I can't say I've experienced truckloads or trainloads of despair in this life, but there have been times where the darkness of my circumstances was extremely thick. It was penetrating to the soul, okay? And I needed, in those dark circumstances, whether it was cancer, whether it was other times in our lives where maybe Dana, when she was having miscarriages and loss, maybe it was some dark season that we were stressed financially or stressed circumstantially in some other way. It could have been early in our transition to New England when our church and ministry was experiencing such distress, really in multiple ways. It could have been this past year with COVID. There was certainly a lot of distress in all of our lives with COVID. But when you have the sense that God is delighting and his favor is upon you and his presence is with you and he is giving you the light of his love and presence and guidance, in that moment, it chases all darkness and it chases all shadow away. Okay? So David is praying for something that we can all experience. He's praying for something that we all need to experience. And the best I can compare it to is, okay, do you remember when you were a child and your parents or grandparents would look on you with favor as opposed to disfavor? Do you remember the confidence, the courage, the delight, the sense of wonder and joy and fullness that would well up within you at having the approval of somebody that you longed to please or longed to make proud of you? I can remember being in junior high and high school and being on the field, on the playing field, and continually glancing to see if mom and dad were watching me. And I wanted the sense of that, that they were taking delight in me. They were well-wishing me, and they were pleased with me. Once I started dating Dana, it was the same thing. I wanted to know, was she standing on the sidelines? Was she cheering us on? And if I did something good, was she in my corner? I can remember a few times making some really bad flubs on the athletic field and just being so embarrassed that I had any family or friends there and that I had shamed me and shamed them. But it's that feeling, it's that sense that you have received the highest favor, the highest delight, the pleasure, you're the recipient of the pleasure of the greatest, highest, most loving, most wonderful being in the universe. Now, my friend, first of all, that is only made possible through Jesus and through the gospel, okay? There's no way we can be justified in the eyes of God, welcomed in his presence, and survive apart from the atoning work of Jesus and his new life and the presence of his Spirit within me. But once I've received that, I never lose it. Now, I can lose the sense of it, but I never actually lose it. And so experiencing this is not a matter of mystical, behavioral metrics and how do the planets align so that I can have this magic experience with God, this fairy dust experience. That's not it. The fact is, Jesus firmly placed you in the light of God's favor, pleasure, delight, and loving countenance. It's permanent. You're never moved from there. Now, God can be displeased with your behavior, but you never lose his favor. You never lose his love. You never lose your standing before him, okay? You can lose the experience of it. You can live with the sense that you have grieved the Spirit within you and that somehow you are out of sync, okay? But you are always one repentant prayer, one turn away. Let me say it this way. God doesn't turn from you. You can turn from him, okay? You can turn away, walk away, backslide, carnally step out of that experience of God's delight and God's countenance. But you are never far from it. And it follows you wherever you go and wherever circumstances in life take you. And you can return to it. And you can step right back into the light, the full light of his inviting countenance, strength, guidance, and personal presence in your life. And it is the most wonderful knowledge in all of life. On the gray days, on the sunny days, on the hard days, on the good days, on the days you're struggling and you don't feel it, and on the days that you step out into warm sunshine and it just feels like God's right there with you, and everywhere in between, when you know Jesus, you really never get away from the favor and from the light of the countenance of God upon you. There is just no greater joy in life. There's no greater source of health internally than to live in the knowledge of the good news, the gospel of Jesus, that he holds you secure, that he loves you and will never reject you, and you can never fall from his love. Romans 8, Paul makes it very clear that God is faithful to you. So my friend, begin this week and wake up every day this week and thank God that you can live in the light of his joy and favor and countenance. Happy Monday, and I'll see you tomorrow.